Well, today on Energy with MG, KDNK's Marilyn Gleason is back with a knowledgeable guest to discuss energy and your world. Tom Phillips lives in western Colorado now, but for 30 years he worked in the international oil and gas industry. He's skeptical about oil shale development here, even as the BLM seeks public comments on its plan for leasing land.
Well, I'm a chemical engineer, but I've spent a lot of my career doing economic analyses of projects. And big projects, too. Yeah.
And where were these projects?
These projects were in Saudi Arabia, mostly, when I was working for the National Oil Company of Saudi Arabia, Saudi Aramco.
And you're living in western Colorado, where we have quite a bit of our own oil and gas development, so it must be interesting for you to watch what's going on right around in the neighborhood. One of the things that's been going on just recently is the Bureau of Land Management has created this programmatic environmental impact statement on tar sands and oil shale development in Colorado, Wyoming, and Utah. And I gather you have some opinions on this. You're not particularly in favor of them developing this resource. Could you talk about why?
Based on my experience evaluating the economics of projects, I see that there's several risks associated with oil shale production that make it unattractive, which means that that without some kind of government subsidies or government guarantees, it's unlikely, based on pure economics, that these projects would proceed. Therefore, I do not believe that it's appropriate to open up large tracts of public lands to commercial oil shale production.
Can you talk more about what those risks are that are discouraging companies from investing their own money?
Well, yeah, one of the first thing that comes to mind is water. It's not clear how much water would be required, but estimates range anywhere from 1 to 5 gallons of water is required to produce 1 gallon of oil shale, which means that even a moderate-sized production, let's say using the 3-to-1 ratio, 400,000 maybe barrels a day of production would require somewhere in the neighborhood of 60,000 acre-feet per year of water. And this water is primarily going to come from surface water, which would ordinarily drain into the Colorado Basin and into Lake Powell. Now the risks here is what's going to happen in a drought. What's going to happen if there's a water shortage situation in the Colorado Basin, the upper and the lower basin. Already all the water in the basin is used or overused. And the way it's overused is it's taken out of the reservoirs of Lake Powell and Lake Mead. We also have the risk of technology. The technology is not defined. We don't know what the energy return on investment is. We don't know what the pollution aspects are going to be. We don't know how much money it's going to take to utilize this technology to produce the resource. So we don't know whether the technology itself is profitable. Until we do, then we shouldn't get into commercial production. We don't want to push this. We don't want to rush this thing along. And there's two more risks I want to talk about briefly. The carbon risk. You know, it's altogether possible that at some point in time, the world and the United States will have some kind of tax on carbon. And if we do implement a tax on carbon, these carbon-intensive resources like tar sands and oil shale are going to be disadvantaged. And so this is an unknown that is hanging over the heads of investors who want to get into the oil shale business. And the fourth risk, which is not even easily quantifiable, is what is the public acceptance going to be? If a commercial oil shale production starts and we see that it's polluting the air, it's polluting the water, it's destroying the pristine natural beauty of the western United States, are the American people going to sit back idly and let that happen? Or are they going to do whatever they can to shut that shut that operation down and restrict it? So you basically have these four risks that are hanging over the profitable commercial scale production of oil shale. Until those are quantified through small scale pilot plant operations, then we should not be moving into commercial production. Otherwise, the American public, the taxpayer, is going to have to be subsidizing or guaranteeing the profit of these operations, and we should not be doing that. There's other energy sources out there that don't carry nearly as much risk as oil shale, and those include solar and wind, as well as even the shale gas and shale oil has less risk than oil shale.
Who do you think is behind this push right now to, kind of move towards developing this oil shale at a time when, the research really hasn't proven up on the plots that they're using right now? What's behind this?
Well,
and why now?
It seems to me that there's a lot of desperation in terms of energy in this country. We see that energy prices are high. High energy prices are threatening the economy. Every time that the economy looks like it's going to recover, and you can just get online and follow this yourself, oil prices go up. That's because of tight supply and demand. It's not because of speculators, it's because of tight supply and demand. And so there are a lot of people think that we need to develop, at whatever cost, domestic supplies of energy to try and offset this. The Republicans seem to be pushing all of the conventional oil supplies in this country. Anything that's black, dirty, and carbonaceous seems to be something that they favor, whereas if it's not, if it's clean and if it doesn't have any carbon in it, they don't seem to be inclined to support it, even though from my perspective, evaluating this economically, wind and solar have a lot less risk associated with them than does oil shale production. Basically, the transportation fleet in the United States still runs on liquid petroleum-based fuels. And so they want to continue down that pathway, even if that means, for example, accelerating the environmental devastation associated with tar sands production in Canada, because it's a liquid fuel that fits right into our existing automobile fleet and our distribution system. Although they're using huge amounts of water and natural gas to produce that highly carbonaceous, black, dirty and carbonaceous fuel from Canada, we could be taking that natural gas and converting the transportation fleet to natural gas. This is another story. If you look at the price of natural gas versus the price of oil, and you put them on the same basis, the same number of BTUs. So we find right now that natural gas is 1/10 on a per barrel basis the price of oil. And a barrel of natural gas, I'm going to call it a barrel for convenience at this point because it's the same energy content, can push a big rig or a car down the road the same number of miles as a barrel of gasoline. So why aren't we, what is the resistance to converting the fleet to natural gas, which is cleaner and easier, and it makes a lot more sense to use natural gas directly in an automobile rather than use it to produce oil shale or tar sands, which are dirty and highly carbonaceous and highly polluting and highly destructive to the environment.
All right. Thank you very much, Tom Phillips.
Well, thank you. It's been my pleasure.
That's Energy with MG, KDNK's Marilyn Gleason, along with Tom Phillips.